People that decided never having children. What was the moment you knew it's just not for you? I don't mind kids, I like to give them back. They are so time consuming and I'm too selfish to have kids. I like sleep, privacy, alone time. I used to babysit my friend's kid overnight and during the day until the dad came home, and then I'd have to stay put the kid to bed. Doing that for the couple weeks I did just solidified to me that I'm not cut out for it. My partner understands, but as it stands I'm not having kids and I feel like that won't change. Hey, don't buy into the "you are selfish if you don't want kids" hype. Most of the people who choose to have kids do it for reasons that are just as selfish. They do it because it's what they want to make their lives happy and fulfilled. Not having kids for the exact same reason is not higher on the selfish scale. When I realized it was an option. When I was younger I assumed that's just what you do. Grow up, have kids, deal with the kids. It took me some time to notice that it's possible to choose not to have children, at which point I thought that sounded like a great choice for me. I can't figure out why people always say, "Oh, you'll change your mind." Having kids is no longer the ultimate goal in life. If someone doesn't want to be a parent, they absolutely shouldn't be. I've always said I never wanted kids, since middle school. But people would always tell me, "Oh, you'll change your mind someday. You're going to find a nice man, get married and have kids." I also said I'd never get married. Never liked anyone enough. Until now, that beautiful bastard. He also doesn't want kids. So we're going to travel and be selfish and save our money, and it's going to be awesome. It is awesome. You will love it. Get set, go. I'm hypersensitive to sound. The sound of children crying is physically painful to me, to the point that if I don't have earplugs on me and a kid starts crying, I need to leave the room immediately. You can't be a parent if you can't handle crying kids. There was no such moment. I've never even considered having kids. I feel neither the desire nor the necessity of producing offspring. I like being free, unbound. You can't really do whatever you want with kids in the picture, can you? Kids become a constant. This is the case for me too. There's no defining moment where I made the decision. It's just not something I've ever wanted. Even as a kid, I never played mommy with my dolls or anything like that. I don't like kids, I don't need kids, and I like having time and money. I'll pass. I have since wifed her, but at the time we were engaged, my fiancé and I had discussed kids and were strongly leaning towards not, for a variety of reasons, but weren't 100% on board with the idea yet. We then visited my brother as part of a vacation, spending a weekend with my brother, his wife, and their 3-year-old son. I had been looking forward to this as they live several states away and I hadn't been able to spend time with my brother for ages. I was hoping to hang out with him, have conversations, crack jokes, maybe even try some local beers. Instead, the entire weekend was spent with my nephew. I barely got to talk to my brother about anything that wasn't nephew related. The kid needed constant care and attention from everyone, myself and my fiancé included, etc. as young children do. So we went home having not gotten to spend any of the time I wanted with my brother. It was a stark lesson in just how much children change your life. We both were completely convinced that we did not want kids at all after that trip. I hate going anywhere with my sister. We live in the same town, because I somehow always become the babysitter. Last time we met up for lunch at the mall, and I was left at the play area so she could go shopping. When I was like 14, in health class, the teacher was talking about pregnancy. Stuff I thought I knew. Period stops. You feel great until birth. Was turned upside down and I realized, holy crap, that's terrifying. Especially when he talked about being able to see the baby's fists and sometimes a slight outline of its face on his wife's stomach. I became tocophobic from that moment on. Similar situation, when I heard there is a procedure where they have to physically cut the vagina during birth to make more room for the baby to come out. I noped out hardcore. I have never wanted them. I'm a 40-year-old female and have zero regrets. I like kids, they are cool, just have never wanted my own and have never wavered even for a second. Same here at 37. I like kids aged about 5 and up and was even a teacher for a few years, but don't care for babies and actively dislike toddlers, so I'm not sure I could cope with those early years. I can't remember any point in my life at which I wanted to have kids of my own. I'm still on the fence, but I know for sure I don't want to have kids of my own. I'm short, fat and socially inept. I don't want my kids to hate their bodies' personalities as much as I hate mine. Plus, pregnancy freaks me out in a way I can't fully explain. The idea of a human just growing inside you makes me squeamish. Babies in general are gross. I love babies, and I love my friends' babies with all my heart, but they're gross. I had to change a diaper once and thought I was gonna vomit. So if I ever decide kids are for me, I want to adopt an older kid who at least is capable of cleaning up after themselves. There will still be messes, but of the much more manageable variety. Plus, older kids are cool. They can tell you all about their day, likes, dislikes, etc. My friend's kiddo is just now mastering her words. Again, I love the little nugget, but I'm psyched for when she'll be able to really talk about herself. There wasn't really one moment, but when I was in my last year of college I had a condom failure. I took plan B, but that really fricked up my hormones. So first I bled for like 10 days and then my period stopped for 3 months. I was almost hysterically, irrationally convinced I was pregnant anyway. I started looking up late-term abortion providers across the globe. I was so angry my body could do this. I just argued with pro-lifers online to let off steam. It was not a mentally healthy situation. Sure, I was young, but I wasn't 18 either, yet I realized how viscerally disgusted I was by the idea of pregnancy. A friend of mine got pregnant later that year, just before graduation. She kept it, and was fine with it. I realized my feelings were very, very different from women who wanted kids, even when I was saying I'd have one after I was 30 before. I realized that after I was 30 was basically some random time in the future I never really thought was going to happen. Around the same time, my grandmother became badly disabled. She was blind already, but more issues arose with age, and we decided to care for her at home. For me, this meant it sort of ended fun stuff I did with my mom, like going to the movies, because one of us always had to stay at home or we'd have to pay a nurse. Now I love my grandma, but I hated every second of freedom taken away. I decide I never wanted that again. I want to be able to get up at any time and go anywhere I want. I know I wouldn't, because I'd love my kids as I also loved my grandma, but I'd resent them for it, too. There wasn't really a moment. I've just never felt any desire whatsoever to have kids. I can't think of a single benefit they would provide to me. I probably wouldn't even love them if I had them. There wasn't a single moment for me. I always knew it was the option I wanted. The earliest moment I can remember clearly is when I was about 3 years old and my mom told me that babies come out of your vagina. I thought that sounded horrible and I didn't want that for me. Bless my mother for being so honest with me. I'm thankful she didn't keep secrets. From then on, the more I discovered about motherhood, the less I wanted it. I was horribly afraid of the idea of pushing a baby out of me. I didn't want to give up my freedom. I've had dreams of being a pop star, traveling the world, and starting a business, and it would all be much harder with a child. I've no doubt I would make a great mother, but I would be miserable. Just the thought of a fetus growing inside me makes me cringe. There are selfless reasons too. Less environmental impact, fighting overpopulation, and better resource allocation. If I took all the resources I could spend creating a child and gave it to someone who already exists who really needs it, I will have reduced the total suffering in the world. You are treated as the least important part of giving birth and you are charged a freaking insane amount to do it. Everyone judges you for how you raise your kids and everything you do is wrong and you're violently freaking them up in every way. Your life is no longer your own. I'm way too freaking angry. I can't stand sudden loud noises, and I have too much hereditary crap growing on my family tree to ever want to risk passing it along. I'm freaking miserable. Why would I want to make another person I know is going to be miserable too? I may adopt one day, if I'm ever in a financial situation where I would be able to take care of that kid in the way they deserve. But a kid of my own making is a possibility I will never entertain. I've felt that way since I was 7 years old. I was 12 or 13, riding in the car with my siblings and parents. My mom was being a horrible bee, as per usual, and I think she turned around and snapped, "I can't wait until you have kids, So you can see how awful it is, and I realized that if I had kids, there was the potential to also be a terrible mother, given that I bore certain unfortunate behavioral similarities to her. Like, that could be me one day sitting in the front seat yelling that to my own kids. And that was when I noped out. I didn't want to be her. Thanks to that awareness, I've spent most of my life in therapy and counseling fighting the personality disorders I've inherited. I've come a long way and burned a lot of bridges, and it will definitely be a lifelong process for me, but it's been worth it to get a semblance of control over the issues that make her an oblivious, narcissistic T. This is my exact situation and course of logic. I am very much my mother's child, not like I consented to it, but I make it a priority to not behave like her in as many ways as I can control. So it's a big fat nope to the babies. Noppa noppa nope. I'm grateful for her demeanor, however unpleasant, because it taught me this lesson early. A hard pass on having a screaming crap machine in my house. When I was a teenager and all my friends went gushy over babies, well, my reaction was make it stop making that noise or get it away from me. When I met my sister after she had a kid, she's not the same person I knew, and not necessarily in a good way. She thought that having a kid would make her happy, but at this point in time, she's not. Maybe it will make some people happier, but that's a risky gamble on you, your partner, and the child, especially since society and the West do not invest in a kid as a life insurance anymore. I think having a kid hoping it will make you happy is a bad reason for having a kid, and in general, I think relying on things external to you for happiness is not the best place to be. Equally as bad as having a kid to save a relationship. I never understood that one. That is like throwing gasoline on a fire. I don't think there was a moment in particular, but it was more of a gradual thing as I saw friends and family members start to have children, as well as listening and learning about other people's experiences. There was never a moment. I've just never wanted kids. I never felt that maternal instinct. I didn't play with dolls as a kid. I don't feel some biological clock ticking. I never woke up one day going nope. No kids for me. It's just always been a thing. Just the realization that it isn't something you can just let go of. It's not a job you can quit, a relationship you can end, etc. It's forever. That's something I never lose sight of, especially when it does seem like a cool idea during that cute phase where the kids are between ages 2 and 10. But after that, you're just dealing with and responsible for this random person who never had to exist in the first place. As someone with a slew of mental health issues, bipolar, depression, OCD, anorexia, etc., I realized that, just like there are people who physically cannot have kids for whatever physical complications, there are also people that are mentally unable to have kids, yet they still do because that physically can. I recognize my mental limitations and simply do not want to be a parent who is mentally incapable of caring for their own child, Ren. Even if my body allows me to have them, it's not fair to the child, myself, or the rest of the world. When I realized how many people's problems can be traced to childhood traumas, I realized I didn't want that responsibility. Also, all my co-workers just be about how their kids kept them up all night and etc. There's not really a defining moment. I've never wanted them, ever. I'm 31 and not once in my life have I wanted a kid. Seeing kids in public tends to reinforce my decision. I'm also selfish, especially with my time. A kid would just pee me off more than anything just because I could never do what I want to do. I am extremely phobic of vomit. I know I could never be a good mother if my child was sick because I would be locked away in full-on panic mode. I also was severely abused, beaten, raped, and tortured as a child, and I have days where PTSD anxiety overcome me and I cannot function properly. No child should be subjected to that. I feel guilty my husband is subjected to that. Also, my husband and I barely make enough to stay afloat. It isn't fair to the child if we don't make enough money to provide for them. Plus, people are too quick to blame parents for things nowadays. Back when I was a kid, my mom would leave us at home while she worked and we would just wander off into the forest or go play in the creek. Now, parents get charged for things like letting an older sibling babysit or letting your kids wander off to a park by themselves. I'm only 21, but have no intent to have children. I have known I didn't want kids since I was a kid myself. I never played house, never played with baby dolls, etc. I have grown up knowing I was not meant to be a mother. I have pretty intense parental issues with my own parents and would be terrified I would totally ruin my kid's life. There was never a moment for me, as it's something I've always known. P.S. I mean this kindly, but please don't tell me I will change my mind about having kids. No, I won't. I'm sick of people telling me I'll definitely want kids when I'm older and how heartless I am for not wanting them in the first place. I do not want kids. I will never want kids. I also don't hate kids. For some reason people equate not wanting kids to hating them. I like kids. I like being around kids, but being a mother just isn't for me. I'll back you up on the changing mind front. I truly think there's less changed minds and more failed contraceptions. People are confused by those that don't want kids. People are outraged by mothers that don't want kids. I decided that while I really liked kids, I really did not want to go through pregnancy, labor, delivery, and the infancy stage. I have a lot of health issues and we have certain diseases that run in our families that I'd prefer not to pass on. The idea of kids wasn't completely off the table, but we decided to bypass the issues that held us back and fostered for a while and then adopted 2 amazing school-age kiddos. My kids are awesome, and I'm really glad we went this way. I still get grief from people, even some rude jerks we had to cut out of our lives because they wouldn't stop pestering us about when we were going to have real kids. I guess this is more appropriate for never having babies rather than never having children overall, so I hope my perspective isn't too out of context with the subject. At 16. So I have some nasty genetics that I shouldn't pass on, so I'll adopt. Early 20s. I kinda like traveling. Maybe I'll be on team adopt one and done. Me now, how the frick do you adult? My adulting cannot even take care of me, let alone a kid. As a young female, I get crap constantly for not wanting children. I have known since I was a little girl that I have no interest in having children, and I'm still completely adamant that I won't be having them. You'll change your mind? I really don't think I will. It's got worse as now I'm 19 and a lot of my friends are planning on having kids within the next few years, already have kids, so I get loads more comments about the fact that I've pretty much decided that kids won't be in my future, at least planned. I was recently told that I'm less likely to be able to have children due to an illness I have suffered with since around 13 years old, which has also affected my uterus etc. And I really upset some family members by shrugging my shoulders at it. I had never really wanted kids, but always assumed I would have them. Then, when I was 29, I was at the Gino and she made a joke about needing to get on that, referring to trying to get pregnant, and it really upset me. It led to about 8 months of querying all my friends and my mom, and everyone else I could reasonably approach to ask them why they wanted to have had kids. I felt awful, like there was something intrinsically wrong with me because all the arguments and justifications boiled down to they wanted them, and I didn't. I was so sad when I realized that there wasn't some sort of master reason that I could use to logic myself into that desire. I still want children, but I don't want and have never wanted to be a mom. That's when I found Reddit, and specifically our Fencer Sitter and our Child Free. They get a lot of hate, but both places were invaluable to making me feel like I wasn't a monster. I found out about tocophobia, fear of being pregnant, and discovered that not only does it have a name, other people are freaked out by it too. I peeked into other people's lives and discovered that it is okay, and still can be fulfilling to never be a parent. So, I guess about a year and a half ago. That Gino is crap. I'm so sorry she said that to you, because A, how dare a stranger doctor make that kind of assumption, that you even want them, and B, it's not even true. A lot of people in my age bracket, 30 plus, who don't want kids usually refer to the state of the world and society, and how they don't want to bring an innocent soul to this horrid reality, or they talk about money and freedom and how they want to travel the world and such. Not me. I dislike kids, I always have. I have zero patience and zero tolerance for childlike behavior. Even a well-mannered kid, I just can't. I can't have a conversation with a speaking kid. I never carried my nephews as babies or my friends' babies. Even my mother makes fun of me that when I was a kid, I always avoided being surrounded by kids and that I behaved like a little adult. This is not due to a traumatic experience. Nothing bad happened to me. I was not bullied. It's just a personality trait. I've held my niece and my nephew quite a bit, but I feel so freaking off when I do. They're squirmy and I was afraid of dropping them, which, if I'm being honest, I have come close to doing. It's just the weirdest thing to explain to someone who doesn't get it. When I realized I was gay, not that gay people can't be good parents, but I also think I am much more of a cool uncle than a father, plus I think people like me were born to love the idea of love. I'll probably end up as crazy uncle that owns a nature reserve in Montana. I keep saying it and people keep telling me I'll change my mind. I'm only 22 but I've seen so many examples of parents who do as much as they can to be good parents and their kids still end up crapheads. My stepdad's daughters are older than me by a few years and the entitlement factor they both have is like that of a 14-year-old. They don't ask for his money, they just take his credit card. And not for crap like shopping, although they do that too. But one of them just decided she needed Invisalign braces and didn't even ask first. He's such a good freaking guy too. He knows how to discipline but loves the crap out of his kids and it kills me the way they treat him. I also don't understand why it seems like a requirement of marriage for it to be fulfilled. I want to get married one day but when I get married I don't know why I'd want to give up pretty much all of my free time when, between working, I'll barely have any time to give to the love of my life. Without kids, I'd be able to afford more time off to spend with my wife. I'll be able to afford trips and nice things for her and for myself and I'll be able to take opportunities that, whilst having kids I wouldn't be able to take. Between the worry of doing my best, and still ending up with a crap kid, and closing a crap load of doors, I don't think kids seem as fulfilling as everyone tells me. If I want my life to be fulfilled, I strongly believe I'd be able to do a better job doing so without children. I was vomited on. I was told it was cute. I am out. I am a sympathic vomiter, meaning when someone vomits so do I. I would literally be vomiting on my baby for years. Plus I have a genetic disorder that is a dominant gene, so any child I have is 50/50 to have it. There is also no genetic test for my subtype of syndrome, so super not into that. And yes, I do judge people who have children with my syndrome because of these odds and lack of test. We all know how painful it is, and to do that to another life just because you want a mini-me is just wrong to me. I would literally be vomiting on my baby for years. Gross yet hilarious mental image. I don't know that it was one moment necessarily. There were three major things that contributed though. 1. The cost. Around when I was 25 I realized life is expensive as crap. I worked full-time as an engineer and was still struggling with a mortgage and had zero retirement. Having to spend extra money on a kid each month. Saving for their eventual college. My dream car is a Tesla Model S. How am I supposed to afford that if I barely made payments on a Volt that's 1/3 RD the cost? 2. The time. I'm still a kid at heart. I don't want to raise one. I want to spend my time playing video games, going to breweries, doing whatever I want to do. Would I be a good dad? Probably, but I don't want to be. I remember in Interstellar when Cooper says parents become the ghosts of their children's future. I don't want to be a ghost. My best friend can't game with me anymore because he has a kid. I love his kid, but I do not want to ever be in his situation. 3. The girlfriend. She is 100% against having kids. Always has been. She has her reasons. Some are very legitimate. And here I am at 27 feeling that way more than ever. 3 reasons. 1. I am autistic and have an extensive family history of the condition. I can't do that to myself and my potential offspring. 2. I honestly don't think I'd be a great parent. I get overwhelmed and emotionally withdrawn more easily than your average adult. And if I can't rely on myself to keep it together, why would I force some kid to attempt it? 3. I work with kids through a program at my church, and while I enjoy working with kids, I'm adamant that parenting is not for me. That being said, my 4-month-old niece is my main motivation to look after myself and to keep it together, and I am absolutely thrilled at the concept of being a loving and fun uncle. There wasn't one single moment. It was a gradual thing that I became more certain about as time went on. When I was in my 20s, I thought I'd want kids someday because it seemed like the normal thing to do. Then I entered my 30s, and I wanted kids even less. Unless I have a sudden change of heart, I don't think I'll ever want them. I see my friends posting pictures of their kids all the time, and it doesn't affect me like it does some people. It makes me feel sorry for them if anything, because all I see is a drain on time, money, and other resources. A friend of mine posted on FB that she goes back to work tomorrow after maternity leave and she cries every time she thinks about having to leave her son at daycare. My first thought was, wow, I can't imagine feeling like that about anything. That must suck. Pretty sure I'm not mommy material, lol. I don't want to live 18 or possibly more years of my life dealing with a human who can potentially grow into an antisocial psychopath just because a bunch of other kids picked on him/her. In the end, I would have to take the blame on how my kid turned out to be. I lived a crappy childhood and wouldn't wish that on another human being. I wasted enough time in my teens and early 20s. I just managed to pick up on a career again, and I don't want to waste another 20 or so hindering it for another human being. I was at my sister's house hanging out with her and her then 3-year-old. My sister got up to go to the bathroom and the kid wanted to come with her. My sister said no, and kid absolutely lost her crap. She was wailing and throwing a fit and banging on the door trying to get in cause she wanted to be with her mom so bad. I need my alone time, and if I can't even go to the bathroom for peace and quiet, I am never going to be completely happy, and I can't give the kid what they need. When I realized I was 1. Gay, 2. Too selfish to spend my adult life dealing with perpetual pains in the butt, 3. That I like traveling and having money to buy nice things. For a second I read that you realized you were gay at age 1. Just a well dang. Okay then. It's not that I decided to no have kids, but I don't want my own. I'd rather adopt. I have major depression and honestly, I refuse to pass this crap on. I don't think I'd be a good dad. Not in the parental sort, but the depression in me doesn't think I'd be a good anything. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.